980 AM, the Glory Media Group, LLC, WDDO AM, its staff, management, or advertisers, but are the views and opinions of the participants of the broadcast.
Macon in Middle Georgia. It's time for Village Talks with Tia and LJ. Join them live every Wednesday from 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. right here on the Glory 107.9 FM, 980 AM WDDO. Log on to the Glory 107.9 FM on Facebook or YouTube to become a part of the conversation. Let's go live into the studio for Village Talks with Tia and LJ.
Is your child struggling with reading, writing, learning loss, and a culturally irrelevant curriculum? Do you want your child to be outstanding at reading and writing and also take pride in their culture? Then you want Reading Revolution Online. Reading Revolution Online is a web-based reading support program. We serve scholars in grades K through 8, and through our innovative approach, we help them build reading confidence and cultural identity development, equipping them for success in school and life. They learn about Black heroes and sheroes through captioned videos, reading selections, and other activities. Reading Revolution Online is an experience for the whole family. Do it for the culture. Go to readingrevolution.org and get your membership today.
Hey. Welcome, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to Village Talks, the freshest radio show and Godcast, bringing you conversation centered on community and culture from the 478 and beyond. I am your co-host, Tia, and we have a special guest co-host today, Miss Ashley Woodford. Say hey to the people.
Hey, y'all.
Thank y'all so much for joining us. We appreciate y'all. We are wrapping up our Women's History Month series with a very special guest. We will get to her a little bit later in the show, but if you've seen the flyer, you know who it is, but she just walked in, and we are so excited to have her. But thank you all for tuning in to Village Talks. You can watch us on Facebook Live, YouTube, or Twitter, or if you are listening to us on the radio, that is WDDO 107.9 AM, 107.9 FM, 980 AM. We are also on www.wddo.live, and you can get that in the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. So we are available in multiple different ways. So thank you so much. If you are tuning in, please join us in the chat. Or you can give us a call in 478-250-1444. Again, this is our final episode of our Women's History Month series, and the theme is Caring is a Legacy. And we also want to shout out our sponsors, Homeland Village Cultural Center. Y'all know Abijah. He is here also on Napier Avenue. Thank you so much to Sherman Kine and Assembly Brothers, Dr. Chika Akua, and again, that is that readingrevolution.org ad that you see at the beginning of the show, and Habersham Records. So please feel free to join us and engage in this lively conversation. And before we get into the main segment, we want to hop into what's happening with Macon in Middle Georgia. What's the news, Ashley?
All right, here's what's happening in Macon in Middle Georgia. So join Achieve Academy for their Kid Boss Market Community Spring Fling, happening Thursday, March 26th from 4:30 to 6 p.m. at Achieve Gym. That address is 1602 Alberta Road in Warner Robins. Come out and support young entrepreneurs as students showcase their businesses, creativity, and innovation. This is a family-friendly event where you can shop, connect, and pour into the next generation of leaders. For more information, call 833-377-4040. Yes. Next, registration will be closing soon for the third annual Making Black Culture Juneteenth Junior Debutante presentation. This program is open to young ladies in 4th through 7th grade and focuses on confidence, cultural pride, and personal development. Registration must be completed by March 30th, 2026, and the fee for that event is $100. For more information, contact makingBlackCulture@gmail.com. Next, the Macon Middle Georgia National Pan-Hellenic Council is offering scholarships to graduating seniors in Bibb and Monroe County school districts. Applicants must have at least a 2.75 GPA and be accepted to an accredited college or university. Two $500 scholarships will be awarded. The deadline to apply is April 3rd, 2026 at 11:59 p.m. Again, deadline is April 3rd, 2026 at 11:59 p.m. Be sure to scan the QR code on the flyer for full application details. Next, the third annual D9 Dash United for Scholars 5K Fun Run and Walk will be happening Saturday, April 18th, 2026 at Emerson River Park, at the Porter Pavilion, located at 2551 Pierce Drive North in Macon. Early registration is $30. On site is $35, and youth 17 and under can participate for $15. This event is all about community, movement, and supporting scholarships. So come out and run, walk, and fellowship. And I have a couple of community events that's happening.
Yes, get to those. That's perfect.
So, Pleasant Hill Neighborhood Organization, they are having their cleanup this Saturday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Pleasant Hill Neighborhood Organization meetings are also every second Saturday from 12 to 2, the next one being April 11th, as well as the Family Fun Day, which will be April 12th from 2 to 5 p.m. A couple of events happening at the Tubman Museum. We're having on March 27th, Embracing Possibilities reception, which will feature a local artist Miss Rhonda Miller, as well as some other artists. Also, the Tubman will be having their anime event.
Okay.
Yes. Also at the Sports Hall of Fame, that'll be this weekend. The 28th and 29th events are happening all day long. It's the CBF Psyche Anime and Esports event.
Is that the same event they had last year? Oh, that was cool. We were, I think, at the Tubman for another event, but we were like, it was like right alongside that anime event, and I didn't know there were so many anime cosplaying folks in Macon, Middle Georgia.
I said I was gonna come to work with a costume on.
Ain't nothing wrong with it.
Also, annual event, the 30th anniversary for the Pan African Festival. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Friday is the 24th. That's the Afrocentric Ball. Saturday is the Pan African Festival main event. It's the Steppers edition this year. So it's going to be a couple of different soul artists like Nephew Jones, Jeter Jones, and hosted by DJ Trucker. That is from 9 a.m. with the show starting at 6 p.m. And lastly, Sunday is the gospel concert. That's the 26th from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. Check the flyers on the Tubman website for more information. Oh, and art and book club at the Tubman is starting May 9th.
All right. And y'all, that is what's happening in Macon, Middle Georgia. If y'all have any other community events or activities that are happening either this week or in the coming weeks, you can feel free to drop the information in the chat. We would appreciate that. Or you can give us a call in 478-250-1444. And so thank y'all for joining us. We have Commissioner Donis Bryant says, hi all. Hey, Commissioner. We have Vote Hatcher who says hello. Hey, Carrie. He is running for District 7 school board, that seat. So y'all, if you don't know what district you in, I just received a mailer from the state with all of my information for voting districts. And that's another thing. That runoff for District 5 commissioner is coming up. It'll be, I believe it starts on April 6th, and then voting happens on April 19th, if that's a Tuesday. Let me double check. No, 21st. I don't know. Y'all put it in the chat if y'all know the exact information for that runoff election. I don't have it with me, but I appreciate any help with that. Miss Aisha Warner Ellen says hello. LJ Malone says good evening. And Miss Aisha Warner Ellen also says, Ashley, give her a call in the morning. Yes, y'all need to coordinate. She's gonna do that. And LJ says, I love you till you keep up the fire. Keep the fire lit. I got you. I got you, babe.
Oh, another place you can check out the voter registration is mvp.ga.gov.
Yes, absolutely. So if you haven't received a mailer with all of your voting district and voting information, then you can also check out that MVP. And Commissioner Bryant says April 14th is the date to vote. So yes, get ready if you haven't already or started. Well, I'm sorry if you haven't already been aware that there is a runoff for that District 5 commissioner seat. Yes, it will be Andrea Cook and Edward Foster. So I'll be looking out for more information about that. And Patrick Davis says Monday, April 6th through Friday, April 10th. And then election day is Tuesday, April 14th. Thank you so much for that. We're getting it from everybody. Thank you. We appreciate it. And then we have a caller on the line. Caller, you are here with us.
Hi, Gary.
Hey, Carrie, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing just a fantastic day, and I get to speak with you.
Oh well, thank you so much. We appreciate that. What did you wanted to did you want to give the audience some information, or is there anything that you wanted to share with the people while we have you?
Yes, yes. There is a serious situation happening with the school system, where they've started working on the budget for next year, and the initial budgetary estimate puts us at $30 million in the negative for the year, which if that stays, that then puts us below the acceptable savings account level to operate. And many people don't understand that by the time the budget process comes around where they're asking for public comment in a few months, that the budget has already happened. It's already, they're just discussing the edges. They're not really discussing the meat and potatoes of the subject. So now is the time to really get engaged, let the board know what your feelings are on school closures, redistricting, property taxes, so that they understand what's important to the community. This is really going to be a rehash of last year's proposal of closing schools like L.H. Williams and whatnot, due to the less than 450 number of students in 9 different elementary schools.
Right, right. Well, thank you so much for that information. So basically what you're saying is folks need to start getting involved in attending those Board of Education meetings now before there's a decision made or any finalizations on how the budget will be used.
Correct, correct. So they had their first working session this month, and then they'll have another working session next month. And I don't think that date's been announced yet. They often don't publicize that until just a few days ahead of time. So you got to pay close attention to when that's going to happen.
Okay. All right. Well, definitely keep us in the loop. We appreciate you providing that information. And was there anything else that you wanted to say in reference to your race that'll be coming up in May?
If you'd like to learn more about me and my race, you can visit votehatcher.com. The election will be, just in a couple of months, but then I wouldn't take office if I win until next year. So this sort of urgency in the matter is kind of separate from the election. But please, by all means, if you live in Bibb County, it's the whole district. Check me out at votehatcher.com. But
votehatcher.com. Feel free to drop that information in the comments. Thank you so much for calling in, because we do have plans to speak on some of those things a little bit with our guests. But thank you so much, Carrie. We appreciate you. And with that, we are going to move right into the accountability check question. And today our accountability check question, well, it's not really a question, but name a woman who deserves to be celebrated in your family and or community. Name a woman who deserves to be celebrated in your family and or community. There are a lot of women, I feel like, who I could name. We have some in the chat already. We have Miss Aisha Warner Ellen. We have Commissioner Donis Bryant. We have our guest, Miss Sylvia Williams McGee, Ashley Woodford, her mom,
Oh, yeah.
Erica Woodford, D.A. Howard. There are so many women in my family, my sisters, my mom, my grandmothers, who have both passed on. But there are just so many people, and we want you all to just join in on that. So if you could leave a chat, or if you want to give us a call in, let us know what women in your family deserve or community deserve to be celebrated. Ashley, did you have any thoughts, or did you want to share? Who?
I mean, you said one of the persons I wrote down. I wrote down my mama. That's the first black clerk of Spirit Court of Field County, as well as finding those enslaved people documents.
Yes, now those documents were, man, if y'all haven't seen her give a presentation on the Enslaved People Project, you are missing out on something very I wouldn't even say is unique to Macon, but it is unique to Macon in the fact that she has presented the information to the community in a way that hasn't been done, I don't think, in the country. So shout outs to Superior Court Clerk Erica Woodford. She is amazing.
Also, you can view those documents anytime you would like. Just pop up at the clerk's office and request to view them, as well as online if you look up Enslaved People Project. And I wrote down also a shout out to the people of the Tubman Museum, those ladies, Miss Denise Van Zandt and Miss Berry, keeping up with the financials, keeping them right, keeping us booked and busy, as well as booking tours for all these people so they can learn some Black history, culture, and art.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. And so in the comments, we have
Miss Pat.
Jeannie Travel says Ashley Wilford with a heart. There we go. We have LJ Malone says his mama Miss Pat from Habersham Records. That's right. And then Carrie says Julia Callahan does more than most know about. She absolutely does. Also, shout out to Ronaldo for all the work she does with the Democratic Party. And then just all of the giving back, the volunteering that she does. Miss Tina Dinar, she does phenomenal work with the Adopt a Role Model program. Miss Thelma Dilliard, she is amazing as well. Miss Dr. Sandra Woodford does a lot of work in the community that most might not be aware about. And LJ Malone says Miss Gant from M.A. Evans. Shakita Maxwell, congratulations, excellent job. Sherman says, what's going on? Sherman, we are asking you to name a woman who deserves to be celebrated in your family and or community. So if you want to share that. Also, Miss Shakita Maxwell, she does so much work on behalf of the community. She cares so deeply for Macon Bibb. And so shout outs to Shakita for all of the work that she does that goes unseen, unrecognized. And for all the women who may not be in the foreground getting a lot of shout outs or acknowledgments, but are in the back doing the work nonetheless. We appreciate you. We love you. And we honor you on this final episode of Women's History Month with Village Talks. LJ Malone also says Mrs. Tolbert, who started Progressive Christian Academy.
Yes, Dr. Betty J. Tolbert.
Yes. And then LJ Malone says me to you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And with that, because again, I did say that we want to honor our guest. And that is Miss Sylvia Williams McGee. She is a lifelong servant leader and proud native of Macon, Georgia, raised in the historic Pleasant Hill community. She has dedicated over 35 years to the Bibb County School District and also later continued her impact through United Way of Central Georgia as the inaugural project manager for Reunited. Today, she serves as director of the Ruth Harley Mosley Women's Center, where she continues to pour into women, families, and the broader community. So we would like to thank and bring in our special guest of honor today, Mrs. Sylvia Williams McGee. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. We appreciate you for being here. Ashley, did you want to kick off the questions?
Okay. So, Miss McGee, thank you for joining us. What does the title of community engagement servant mean to you, and how has it guided your life's work?
Well, when I talk about community, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm just so excited to be here with you, and I just see this is an intergenerational conversation.
Yes,
ma'am. So that's wonderful. When we talk about a community engagement servant being of the people and being concerned about meeting the needs of others, not yourself, but meeting the needs of others. And engagement is pulling people inclusively together, identifying those who are outside of the tent as well as those who are doing things, and making sure that the community as a whole is involved, and then there's impact that you can see based upon the work that's being done. So it's about working. It's about working, identifying needs, and then helping try to meet those needs.
That's awesome. And it's very distinct. And so, what early influences kind of shape your commitment to serving others in that way?
Well, when we are talking about Women's History Month and you were talking about accountability people, I would have to say my mother, Nora Williams. When we were growing up, we really didn't understand what she was doing, but she was a person who just had we called at her funeral, she had a spirit of generosity and a legacy of generosity.
Mhm.
She cared about her neighbors. She helped individuals. She was a caregiver in the neighborhood. If there was a need, there was sickness, if there was something, she met that need by helping others. There were children in our neighborhood who would stop by our house in the morning before there was breakfast programs in the schools in the 50s, and she would make sure that they had breakfast.
Oh wow.
And then we would all walk to school together. Across the street, if somebody was ill and that person was the only person in the house, or children, she would make certain that they had meals, or she would make certain that they had baths, or if they needed shoes or whatever. She was always about filling the gap and doing it so effortlessly and without any need for any kind of recognition.
Oh,
So
wow.
we grew up with that.
Yes.
And that's what we saw. And as you think about it, more is caught than taught.
Yes, ma'am.
And so that's where I think that comes from.
That's awesome. And so your mother was like one of those community moms.
She was the community, right? She was a community mom.
Yes.
That's exactly right.
That's awesome. My mom was similar in that way, where everyone would come to her. Like if they knew that our home was kind of like a refuge.
Mhm.
If you needed a place to stay, if you needed some support, that was the place. So that's awesome to hear. And I think that, here on Village Talks, that's one of the things that we kind of want to get back to, having that feel where we're not just, somebody lives next door and you don't know who they are, you don't go check on them. Like, we want to get back to being, support, and having that community support.
That's
so
right. And I think the other thing about her, she was confidential too. She did not just tell everybody's business. And
Yes.
things came to her and she knew it, but she was not the one to. She said, well, that's her story to tell, not mine.
Yes.
So I like that idea of confidentiality that she had about herself.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Ashley, you want to?
Okay. So you dedicated 35 years to Bibb County School District,
Mhm.
serving in roles from school social worker
Mhm.
to interim superintendent.
Mhm.
What kept you committed to this work for so long?
Because when I was a child, I wanted to come back and be a teacher. And so a teacher was what I thought I wanted to be. And then as I progressed through school and saw the area of social work, I thought, I really want to do social work rather than to just be in the classroom. And I found my passion being that. And so I was really working in my ministry and my mission and my why. So being a school social worker meant that I served several schools, worked with children who had absentee problems, who had issues with social and emotional challenges, families that had issues. And so that has just always been a part of what I wanted to do, and finding solutions, finding partners, matching resources to what people needed. And so I think I was working in my why. I didn't always understand it, but when I reflect back upon my work, it was that, well, number one, I was working in a strength-based field where I had the strength, and I was working in my passion. So although there were challenges, I won't say that this was not the case, but I was really working in my why.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. To be moving in purpose and know that that's what you're doing. That passion and compassionate heart that comes along with actually moving in your purpose, is undeniable, because a lot of times people, feel like I have to be in this job for a paycheck, or I just, I'm here to
Right.
get by. And so that love doesn't get fed into what you're doing.
Right.
So yeah, that's amazing.
And you extend yourself beyond what the job description says because you want to see and you have in your mind what you want the result to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ashley, did you want to read the comments? I can read some of the comments. You got them.
Let's see.
I think we left off on LJ. So
the UTU. Okay, so Miss Bryant said Lane Lucas women at the sheriff's office. Yes to them. And Kia Gibson said, "Hey y'all, hello to my favorite
Kaya.
Mrs. Yeah,
Kaya is doing wonderful work. She's one of my little young proteges.
Oh yeah, she is awesome. Shout out to Kaya. Oh yeah, she's one of those phenomenal women as well that's doing good work in the community.
She's quietly doing good work.
She is.
Miss Shakita, she said, Happy Women's History Month to you. Happy Women's History Month to you too, Miss Maxwell.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And then she also said, My Lord, peace and blessings. Amen.
That's right. That's right. And so I want to kind of merge a couple of these questions. So you work directly in student support. So how do things like social determinants, for instance, housing, family stability, access to resources, how do those things impact educational outcomes? And what lessons from your time at the school district do you think current leadership could carry forward?
Okay, when we talk about social determinants and how well children can do, family stability is real important in terms of children being able to have when your basic needs are not met, when you are concerned every day about whether you have a shelter, whether you are going to eat that evening, whether you have a tooth that's aching and can't get immediate health care, then you can't focus on school. School is not, the lesson that's going on is not where your mind is.
That's right.
You're concerned about trying to meet your basic needs. So if you are always, or your family unit is always having to struggle at that very basic level, you can't get to the next level to where school becomes the focus of what your life needs to be. So social determinants and having stability is really important. And when we look at our community, we have a lot of poverty. I think about 28 to 30% of children who live with uncertainty every day.
Right.
And they can't always focus on when they get to school, of what school views as important.
Right.
Because that's just not where they can be. So social determinants are important. And so how can we help where individuals can feel secure when they get home, can feel as though they're going to have a meal, so that they can then move to the next level to start to look at academics or whatever is going on. So I think those are real critical issues that we have. And that's some of the challenges that I would think that the Bibb School District has.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. And I think that even when you were talking about, what your mother did, providing breakfast and, being a confidant and things like that, those are the type of things when we're talking about really putting in a community effort to kind of deal with a lot of the issues as it relates to social determinants. How do we provide access? How do we, set up free, health services, dental services, vision services?
Right.
There might be a kid who can't read, but they need some glasses, and they just don't have a way to get the prescription.
Or some hearing issues.
Absolutely.
And, so they need a hearing screening, but they don't even realize that their vision is not what it is, because their vision is what it is, and is normalized.
Absolutely.
And a lot of things are normalized in our environment because that's all we know, versus knowing that there can be something better. Somebody could connect some resource to easily remedy some of the things. Some things can't be remedied, others can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ashley, did you want to go into the next questions?
Okay. So after retiring, you stepped into leadership with United Way's Reunited program. What drew you to early literacy? And why is third grade reading proficiency such a critical milestone for children?
Well, working in the school district and you are seeing, and test scores are always something you're looking at, and you know that reading is foundational. If you know how to read, you can do other things. If you struggle in learning how to read, then that's going to be a problem. So I understood all of that um, when I started to work with Read United. So, and we know that children who grow up in poverty, it's not because they don't have the intellect. It is because there are those foundational skills of having vocabulary, having people to talk back and forth to you, what we call serve and return,
Right.
all of those kinds of things I understood. And so this just seemed to be a sweet little project that I could just focus right on that versus focusing on a broad range of issues when you're working day to day. Third grade reading is important. To be able to read proficiently by the end of third grade is important because we teach reading from the time children start school, or really until third grade. Then after third grade, reading as a subject is no longer given.
Right.
So if you can't get the foundational skills, those phonemic awareness, phonological skills, all of those pillows that are not strong by reading, then you're going to struggle.
Get left
And,
behind.
and you're going to be left behind, and then you're less likely to graduate. And then if you're less likely to graduate, then that's going to impact you economically, it's going to impact you emotionally, and you're going to have that for the rest of your life.
Right. Right.
So that's a benchmark, critical benchmark for success in life, reading proficiently by the end of third grade.
Right. And I think it's so important. I was looking into some information just about adult literacy. And I believe that here in Macon Bibb, it's about 68 or 69% can't read like very dense text. So a lot of things like ballots and manuals and things like that, a lot of adults even can't they can't read them or comprehend. So it's one thing to actually I can read the words, but if I can't internalize them and comprehend them and understand what it is I'm reading, we're at a disadvantage. So I think that that third grade it is pivotal, and we even see a lot of kids being passed just to get by, and then we see how it can affect them later in life, especially when we're talking about here in Macon with the poverty level being so high, and people not being able to work, higher paying jobs because they lack the skills that are necessary. So it's definitely pivotal. So you doing that work with Reunited is definitely important, and we thank you for that work that you did.
Well, we just want people to know that as even when you a baby, you talk to the baby,
Absolutely,
because they hear, and the more words you hear are important because you're building foundation for vocabulary, and those things are really important.
Yeah, that's right. Our 4-month-old, I talk to her every day. I read to her every day. And it's so funny because now it's like, even though she can't make out words or she can't say words, like she vocalizes to us, and you could tell when it's like, okay, I'm happy, or when she's like, no, I'm telling you about just like, it's like she's actually verbalizing. And so it's real good to see that that those things stick with our children. So it's so important, as early as possible to get them active and encourage them to do that call and response and get that vocabulary.
Right. And having books, and that's another challenge that we have, having print material in that home. I know now we are into screen time and all what have, but for children to have print material and pictures, and even if a parent can't read, you can read and talk about what's happening in this picture.
Absolutely.
So don't say just because I can't read, I can't promote reading.
Absolutely.
You talk to children, you answer their questions the best you can. You ask them, well, why do you think that? So that there's always conversation that you're having, and they are developing their critical thinking skills. So
absolutely.
That's important.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And so, and we kind of spoke on that last question. I do also want to ask you, it's kind of going back to some of the things Carrie said, and then also the work that you did with the school district. And you sent me a video, and it was a great video of some of the Pleasant Hill, what do I want to call them? not honorees, but they were like, it was like an homage to Pleasant Hill and the history of
they were residents.
residents
They grew up in
Yeah, so it was with 6 of you all who did an interview a few years ago, and one of the things that I learned was that that L.H. Williams actually burned down
in 1977.
1977, and there was a big major push to get the school rebuilt, not just to leave it empty. And so with that, how does that school represent the community and the cultural and historical significance? And even when we're talking about reintroducing consolidation as a means to kind of help with the budget, what are your thoughts on that, and what do you think, how does that connect to the history of Pleasant Hill?
Yeah, well, before the interstate in the 60s, Pleasant Hill was one community. And if you can imagine, when you look at all those lanes crossing that I-75, that there were homes, houses, and people in those spaces that we drive. And that's right, stores, all kinds of things in that space that we drive. And then the interstate came through there and divided the community, and it divided it in a lot of different ways. But and then we had the Green Street School, which was an older school that closed. But then L.H. Williams has sat for so long as a place of community, because so many people went to school there. It started with, at that time, grades 1 through 7. And so you would think then that it educated you in your pivotal times.
Right.
We had faculty there who lived in the community and knew you from not only school, but from church and in the community. So you had that, and you talk about community engagement. It was there because they were there. So, and the school and schools anchor communities.
Right.
And L.H. Williams was and is still an anchor for the community. And now I think it is so interesting that it sits in a strategic place, because if we close that school, then where the children will have to leave the community completely.
Right.
And they won't, and they'll have to go, outside of that because of the way things have been structured. And then how will the community anchor itself? Then it serves too as a historic anchor.
Yes.
Because so many people who are in Macon and who lived here and who gave to came through Pleasant Hill. So that historic anchor will be lifted.
Right.
And then it serves as a generational anchor, because when you think about it, dates back to right after the Civil War, when the community, the blacks were freed and then started to have home ownership.
Right.
So, and the school is built around all of that history and legacy. So it in my mind, because I grew up there, certainly I have, I'll be unapologetic for how I feel about it.
Right.
But it certainly provides for our community a steadfast anchoring of intellectual history, of religious history, and of educational history. And I think that we saw that when it burned in 1977, and it was a day of mourning with that school. People just poured in when we got the word that the school was burning. People were gathering and running up towards that site to see what it really burning, because it was surreal.
Right.
Is it really happening? And then when the thought was, well, they can't build it back because there was not enough room to build it back, then the neighborhood just rose up, said, oh no, we're going to have our school back. So people started to sell snowballs, hot dogs. We hired legal counsel, and then fought to get the school back. Then again, homes had to be bought. So now that block that the school sits on was not that much land, but now the whole block was bought, and in time the school was restored back in the 80s. So there is a history of the phoenix rising from the ashes again. And now we're having to look at enrollment as a concern for why the school might be closed now.
Right.
But it represents how can we have that as a community anchor, and how can we extend the idea of what a school can be beyond just the educational institution, but a part of the recreational uh, institution, the historical teaching, and all those things in terms of what a neighborhood represents.
Right. And it's so fascinating to me and kind of disheartening only because just last year the community was really rallying to make sure that it wasn't consolidated last year, and so for it to be less than a year later where these talks are coming back up again, it's just like, what can we do, what do we do, you know they're
Right.
supposed to be building the Walnut and Madison, like
Yeah,
we're supposed to be bringing families in, so it's like, how do we still connect and keep this historic, asset here in the community, this school that means so
So
much to
much.
so many people, when every year it seems like, we're talking about closing
Right.
it down, especially they just started, added the clinic,
Right.
you talk about
Right.
the recreation center, and just
That's right.
the history.
It's a now it's a community center with the school.
Absolutely.
And what's the paradigm now? Because and let me say this, I understand the economics of why the school needs to close. There's an economic base of how much the state is going to pay, um, and there's a minimum enrollment of 450 students that must be in an elementary school in order to get state funding. If that population is not there, then that's all incumbent upon the local school district to have to fund that school. So it's a budgetary and economic issue. But then how can we start to look at a different paradigm? Because like you said, the recreational center, you've got the healthcare clinic
Right.
that's there that serves the neighborhood. You've got the school and the where the school sits, how do you easily send the children to the east, to the west, or whatever? How can we reimagine as a community? And that's now, here's my thought, not just for the Board of Education to look at in terms of solutions, but how can we reimagine something to serve a greater need? And
Absolutely.
that's my concern.
Yeah. And Patrick Davis in the comments says, we have to vote locally, and Democrats must win the governor and state legislature, pass new laws adjusting enrollment numbers. And then he says Republicans are determined to undermine public education. And I think there is a big push to basically to privatize a lot of things, particularly public services are seeming to be privatized. So I think that's definitely a good point that he made. Ashley, did you want to read some of the comments? Or
Okay. We have Dietrich Taylor. She said some things are worth more than money.
Absolutely.
I know
I agree.
we're talking about that Madison Street Walnut development. They used to be progressive.
Progressive,
Green
and
Street
before
School,
and Green Street School before
Georgia
that.
Academy for the Negro,
That's
Billy
right.
Hutchins Library. It's always been
And the
black
Amelia Hutchins
education.
Library was all. That's a little educational corner that sits there. And how do we even bring those pictures back with pleasant, to tell the story?
Right.
Because it's a plot of land, but it's beyond.
It's
a plot
more
of
than
land.
that. It's always been black
It's
excellence.
high excellence.
I know when I went to Progressive, when you walk down the halls, I didn't realize it when I was younger,
Right.
but they had all those pictures on the wall so we could know where we came from.
That's right. That's
Mm.
right.
So we need those pictures. We need
those
those
stories.
facts.
We
Yes.
need those stories continuing to be told, and the transfer of knowledge is so important for us.
It absolutely
And we have
is.
to be intentional about the transfer of knowledge as human beings. I think we see that a lot in the animal kingdom, how the little birds do it and how the whales teach their young. But we've got to have intentionality in how we transfer knowledge. And
Absolutely.
we've got to be intentional about it.
Absolutely. And I know this is Women's History Month, but I could say two men that I know who are always preaching the history and teaching it is Dr. Thomas Duvall and Brother George Muhammad.
Oh, yes.
They are very phenomenal in how they, educate
Right.
our community to me not being from Macon and having to hear stories to kind of understand the significance of everything, it's so important to have people like yourself and those men who, can carry on that history and can tell those stories, who lived and experienced those things. And,
Right.
you feel that connection, even more. And I think that's very, very important for our youth, especially when we talk about like the literacy and not being engaged and wanting to have something, that they can bind themselves to in the way of culture and community, like L.H. Williams, for example, in Bessie Hill. Yeah.
All right, some more comments. Deetra Taylor, visual literacy is also important. There are so many images we are bombarded with daily. It is important to find meaning. Reading words and pictures is fundamental.
Absolutely.
And from a picture they say it's worth 1,000 words, and you can unpack
Yes.
something talking about it through a picture. So those pictures that you saw in the corridors of Progressive are important as we can talk and tell the story.
Yeah. And I think even too, it helps even with just your imagination. Like, just imagining, the people walking, whatever the picture.
Yes.
Like what, it can take you
Right.
into that story yourself and kind of see and imagine or reimagine, what was actually going on during that time.
Yeah. All right. And we're following up on the accountability check question for the day. Julia Callahan. Hello, friends and family. Oh, we're celebrating women, celebrating the Making Bib lineup of women who are always advocating for our community. Our queens, Kimberly Carter.
Oh, yes, Miss Kim. Yes, she is amazing.
Oh, yes. State Representative Miriam Paris. Oh, Miriam Paris, Renalda Scott, Maya Robbins Aguilera, Tia Lockhart, woo, woo. Anita Reynolds Howard, so D.A. Howard.
Yes.
Lynn Snyder, Zakia, hey Miss Zakia, Miss Zakia Muhammad, Teresa D. Southern, Zaria Newbill, Sabrina Friday, Shira Lawrence, Denise Bryant, Leona Hill, Kristen Crane, Ottawa Denise Wilson, Miss Aisha Warner Ellen, and so many more.
Yes, there are so many. Thank you for that, Julia. Appreciate you and all the work that you do as well.
We have a lot of hidden figures in our community too.
We really do.
Local gems, I call them.
Yes, absolutely. And then we have Zakia Muhammad says our kids need to see their history on their school walls.
It is very important.
Yes, that visual is absolutely critical. It's critical. It's necessary that we, make these connections and have these conversations with the youth so they understand the importance and where they are, like the sacred land that they walk on, because it's so much, of people coming in and building up new or whatever. But it's like we need to hold on to that history and that culture, so our kids understand the importance of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They walk around daily in some of these important places and don't even realize what they're walking on.
That is true. Yeah, that is so true.
Absolutely.
And it's not their fault.
Yeah.
No.
Because we have not talked about it enough.
That's right. And then I want to ask another question, and this is kind of leading into your current role at Ruth Hartley Mosley Women's Center, which she is a legend in herself. And so can you tell us what is the mission of the center and why it is so important to this community?
Well, Miss Ruth Hartley Mosley was born in 1886, and by the 1920s, she was born in Savannah, Georgia. Went to school, became a nurse, studied under famous Dr. Daniel Hale Williams out of Providence Hospital in Chicago. At 24 years of age, came to Macon and then became the first, quote, colored nurses supervisor at Central State Hospital in Milledgeville. Now, this was a lady who understood her privilege and used it to help others. So she was able to be educated at a time when a lot of African Americans were not. And she didn't just use that for her own self-worth. She brought about bringing people into the fold and then into the tent and helping others.
Right.
So she was also able to, being a nurse as a professional, but she and her husband had a business, a funeral home, Central City Funeral Home at the time. So and then she acquired land. So over the years, she was able to acquire wealth, but she was always about helping others. I had just spoken with Miss Hattie O'Brien as we were looking at talking about the women of impact. Miss O'Brien was a nurse, but she told me the story that because Mrs. Mosley was a registered nurse at a time when African Americans really weren't in registered nursing, she kept a registry of those who were licensed practical nurses, and she would then match them with cases so that they would have jobs. She was instrumental in helping get nurses hired at the Macon Hospital before they started hiring black nurses, even on the quote colored ward. And so she was an advocate in terms of the medical profession. So upon her death in 1975, she established a trust in which she left her home and the scholarship fund for nursing. And she wanted her home to be a safe space, and she wanted it especially to address issues of concern regarding women and children.
Right.
And you think about, we're talking Women's History Month, and what's the matriarch of the strong woman, an educated woman, an informed woman in the family can make all the difference. Because even now, you predict how far a child will go in life by the education of the mother.
That's right.
So she understood all of that. So she wanted there to be some structure and some empowerment where women could be strong so that they could help children. So she left her home as a safe space. She wanted more people to go into nursing as a profession, and she wanted us to be able to train women in jobs. So when the center started back in 1978, it was a place where you could get basic job training. It was a place that individuals in our community could meet for small gatherings, baby showers, wedding showers, book club. It was a gathering spot, and then with that creates a sense of community.
Absolutely.
And so she really was. She started Booker T. Washington Center. She was treasurer of the Stewart Chapel AME Church. She was very big with NAACP. When Mary McLeod Bethune came to speak at Stewart Chapel AME Church, she stayed in her home. We are told too that Thurgood Marshall stayed in her home when he was doing research for Brown versus the Board of Education. So this was a woman who was a trailblazer, who was a visionary, who understood what needed to be done, and not only understood it, she executed.
Right.
So to be able to continue her legacy, and we've had some challenges with that, to be able to continue her legacy is important for a lot of reasons. And her home being a place that she was able to acquire this little 2-story home in 1917, and have that home represent a symbol of what could be accomplished is real important to us. And then have that home be a repository for history of regarding women, and for it to be a gathering space in which we can address and deal with issues in our community is important. So
absolutely.
That's why I, with challenges, still think that we've got to restore that, first of all, that physical space, because it represents more than the physical space, and then to keep her legacy alive in terms of what she did and understood that needed to be done, and to follow her path in terms of mapping for the future and being about more than just yourself. That's what she represented. It was much more than herself. And she was of the means that she could have made it about herself, but she did not.
That's awesome. That's amazing. So and
I think I probably said a whole bunch. I'm not quite sure, but she was, the more I study and look, the more I understand to see the challenges that she navigated.
Right.
Tells me she was something. She was strong. She was strong.
Very
she was
resilient.
Smart. And she was resilient.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so and it's really refreshing to hear, and you can hear your passion in telling her story as well. So I think that you know are very much the person who can, you know, keep that legacy going and share that information and help us to. And I know you said that it's been with some struggle that you've had. How can we as a community help with, you know, the longevity of the Women's Center?
Well, I think now there we have a board of trustees, and it is based upon what she for over 40 years. When she died, she left a bank as the executor of the trust. Well, the bank is no longer the executor of the trust, and we were able to have that executorship moved to a board of trustees,
Mm-hmm.
and we are now starting to work a strategic plan that we can start calling upon organizations and individuals in the community to help us to restore the home and then to build the programs back. So we will be forthcoming with that soon.
Okay, that's awesome. That's great news to hear on this final episode of Women's History Month acknowledgement. And then we are kind of rounding out. We have about 6 minutes left in the show.
That was quick.
Yes, the time flies. So can you just kind of give us your final thoughts, or, you know, what do you want to leave the community with as it relates to legacy? And we used your theme, caring as a legacy. Like, what does that mean to you? And how can future generations of women use that caring as a legacy as a way to move forward?
Okay. Caring is an action word, and it is what it does. It's not just saying it, but so I care, and I show, and caring shows up in what I do in action. Uh, Taking caregiving in terms of I am seeing about someone who is ill, and so I'm providing the meals, I'm providing the ride to the therapy session or to the doctor's appointment. That's the action that's associated with it.
Right.
So I want us to look at caring as, so what is it that's important to me as an individual, and then how can I make it better through the actions that I do. So if I care about literacy, am I providing books to children who don't have it? That's caring. Am I volunteering to read to a classroom and make that story come alive to those children so that they can see that other than the teacher is talking about how important reading is? Um, if I'm concerned about children's health care, am I working to make certain that we have good, we have toothbrushes and we have other kinds of things that children need?
Right.
So that's what I want people to see. What is it that you are interested in? What is it that you can do based upon your gifts? And then make it more than about you, because it is not just about you. It is about others.
Absolutely.
And bringing others along. So, and if you have been blessed to have, then it is really a responsibility to provide and give. It's bigger than you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Ashley, did you have any final or closing thoughts that you wanted to share?
No, man. I was thinking while she was talking, but then it just left me. Oh, yeah.
You're too young for that.
Right?
Okay, so I got it. I like what you said about the caring, because that's what life is all about. It's not just about you. It's not all about money. It's about the kids, making sure they have everything they need, making sure they know the things that they need to know. If you
have an expectation of them too.
Yes.
And for them to see you.
Yes.
Absolutely. So I want to thank Miss Sylvia Williams McGee for joining us on this episode of Village Talks. I want to also thank Ashley Woodford and all the amazing work that she does in the community at the Tubman Museum in Pleasant Hill neighborhood. Thank you to our wonderful owners of WDDO, Apostle Vertice Rozier and Bishop Don Scott for this amazing opportunity to share in conversations like this. And thank you so much again for all of the information you share about Ruth Hartley Mosley and all of the work she does. And I feel like what you said about caring as a legacy was embodied in what she did.
Very much,
Those
very
titles don't mean anything. Y'all, we have a responsibility to each other, to the youth, and also to each other as adults, to make sure that we are working for the best interest of the least of those.
That's exactly right.
So,
thank you, Ms. Tia. Thank
I
you,
appreciate
Mother.
that. Thank you so much. And we will be back next week to start off mental health on Wednesday. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. For all the comments that we didn't get to, thank y'all so much for joining in on the conversation. And be sure to join us next week. We love and appreciate y'all. Peace.
Thank you. I see one of my church members. Oliver.
Oh, that's awesome.
You've been listening to Village Talks with Tia and LJ. Join them live every Wednesday from 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. right here on the Glory 107.9 FM, 980 AM WDDO.